The Department of Labor has given us very broad, in this particular grant, has given us very broad authority to tell them what it is that we need. These are the parameters the U.S. Department of Labor gave us. Whatever we submit a request for needs to support unemployment insurance integrity through the prevention and detection and recovery of UI overpayments. That's the driving force behind that. We also want to see us do what we can to improve general performance, address outdated IT systems, and our core incentive activities. In the alphabet soup there, NDNH stands for the National Directory of New Hires, and I believe Joe mentioned this earlier. SIDES, the State Information Data Exchange System, and you'll hear me talk about that briefly here. Top, Treasury Offset Program. Pseudo-dumping is the State Unemployment Insurance Tax Act, and Employment Service Registration. These are all things that are priorities to the Department of Labor, and they're things that we receive some funding for.
Now, just so you can put this in a total construct, this is a special grant, but just so you know, for unemployment benefits generally, the way that the formula works for states is before, of course, I told you the unemployment rate is one of the elements of the formula. But if the federal government is in a budget cutting situation, which you know they are, and they will be for a while, the next level of analysis that they do from every state is that they will calculate a cost per widget. So what does it cost to process a tax claim? What does it cost to process an appeal? What does it cost to process all the things that Mike and Joe work on? And they get state information. We don't give them all the information, but they'll take the information off the payroll system for instance, those people who are coded to do that particular function, and they will actually rate the states 1 through 50 on how efficient your performance is. And so for those states who are working really hard and are in the top 10 and have a great cost efficiency ratio, they don't get an additional cut. So they stop there at just the first formula. The second formula, there's, I think, 6 areas that they look at this cost efficiency performance. And so when we talk about improved performance and IT things, it all goes back really to that analysis of how are you rated as a state as far as efficient performance in the federal government is concerned. I can tell you that in these 6 areas that we look at, that the feds look at, we've never been in the top 10. The closest we have been is about 26th or 27th in one of those measurements. And actually, we've been in the high 40s with some of them, which is a bad thing, because then we get to take another opportunity of the cuts. So if you can score in the top 10, you improve the opportunity of getting more funding from the feds than if you're number 40 or 45. So we're focused on all these additional grants. That is money that we can use to help improve our systems, to help improve our process, so that when these measurements are taken, and they take them every year, that we can start moving up in that cost efficiency calculation so that we are not in the bottom part of the state analysis.
That's an excellent explanation of what motivates and drives why Iowa is applying for a lot of these, is that we're attempting to create much greater efficiency through the use of technology and streamlined processes, and you'll see some of that built into this. Now, as I said before, Iowa has been very... Yes.
Back up.
Sure.
Just 2 questions. I've seen in the past, and I'm curious. So, as a special grant, and usually, and it's happened to us here before, when we do a good job, it seems like we get penalized, we get less. Is that going to be the same thing with this?
No, actually, if you do a good job, you'll get more funding.
Okay, well, see, that's opposite of,
Correct. This one is actually logical.
oh, well.
When you do a
no,
good
that's
job,
gonna throw- There goes the wheel and the cog in the wheel. And the other one
To your
is-
point, to your point, as unemployment insurance rates go down nationally and there's less money available, most states receive reductions, but those that are, like the director said, are in the top 10, receive either no or very small reductions as compared to the rest of the states, because they're much more efficient in their
Well,
processes.
that's, like I said, that's gonna be a clog.
it is. It's unusual that it's all so logical.
That's a new thought. And is this gonna relate, in this, support integrity through prevention, detection, and recovery, is this gonna, and this will probably be Mr. Wallace and Joe, either one of you, back to that bill that you're putting in front of the legislature, on the 15% penalty? Is that?
Right, that was part of their integrity proposals that was in the middle class tax bill, as well as the employer part where they said, you know, the employer has to participate. If they don't, they cause an overpayment, they get charged for it. Those were integrity measures to improve the efficiency of the system.
So this, what we looked at on supplemental budget request does, it relates back, that first bullet.
It's actually all part of the initiative from the Department of Labor. These are all things that the states can do individually. But this
that goes
15%,
together with
it's-
that bill, right?
right,
Yeah.
it's part of DOL's
That's right.
agenda
Okay.
to defer fraud,
Okay.
deter
So
fraud,
We're
excuse
going,
me.
actually, we're going above and beyond. We're kind of going above and beyond on that, and besides just saying, well, we're gonna do this, this, and this, we've actually got a bill going in front of our legislature.
Right,
It's
but all
gonna save us.
50 states have to do that. You have to pass it or you lose your funding and your offset. It's federal conformity law, so it's basically mandatory.
But yes, it's all connected to your point. That one step beyond is this grant.
Okay,
Hmm.
all right, well, thank you.
As I said before, Iowa's been very successful with these special budget requests. The past 2 years have been fantastic for Iowa. We've brought in over $4.5 million for special projects. This particular project, I'm very, very proud of my team. Through the competitive process, we brought in over $3 million. It's actually 3.1. There's some money that is set aside for some licensing issues that I didn't include on here. But this is one of the highest in the nation in terms of awards for projects. So I'm very hopeful that we'll be able to move these things along. What I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of give you a very quick run through of some of the projects that we have that hopefully I'll be able to talk to you more about in about 4 to 9 months. Okay. This particular grant, this particular supplemental budget request is very different than any others that we've had. For the first time, the Department of Labor is giving us money to pay for merit-covered staff, base grant money to pay for state employees. Prior to this, it was always you needed to hire a contractor to do a special project. It's one-time funding, it's short-term, anywhere from 6 months to 2-year funding. There's two projects where we're funded for state staff. This is the first one here. We received $79,968 out of a possible $80,000 for someone to lead a cross-functional task force. Now, in our particular case, we're assigning this to an existing manager, so we're going to be immediately saving money in our base grant. Here, we'll be able to set that aside. Their primary role is to lead the initiative, set up the strategic plan for how we're going to address our challenges with UI integrity and prevention. The other piece of this, which I thought was very interesting, and I really questioned it at first, and now I see the wisdom of this. There was a potential of $250,000 to hire a third party to work with our task force in developing the plan. They'll work with staff and management plus this independent third party to make recommendations on what we need to do to do a better job of detecting and preventing fraud and abuse in our unemployment insurance system. We have until June 30th to submit the final plan with their assistance, and we're in the process right now of developing an RFP. There's a couple of organizations who have already stepped up that have got a good reputation that are interested in helping do this. This plan, I'm very hopeful that they'll have additional funding next year. This plan will help set the foundation for additional funding for enhancements to our system. Okay. I may call on Carrie a little bit here, but the next couple of awards, both $100,000 each, are primarily for marketing. This first one here is to help market the data exchange system. We are already in the pilot stage where this electronic data exchange is sending notices of claims to employers electronically and getting responses back. We get a lot more information back from employers using this system than we have under our traditional methodology. We're currently piloting this with Talks or Equifax. We want to expand it to ADP. By just doing those two things, that will touch over almost 3,000 employers in the state of Iowa. The other product is called eResponse, and that's targeted at employers that don't use a third-party administrator like Talks or ADP. They just simply have their mom and pop shop, or they use HR professionals, and it's their way of corresponding with us electronically to exchange information. No more paper, and the information comes back to us electronically. We're setting it up so that fact-finding interviews get set up electronically and remove some scanning, remove scheduling costs, fax and paper, and all those kinds of things. This money is meant to provide advertising and promotion, and I believe we're dedicating some to the website of this one.
What we decided on this one is
Speak up.
to prevent overwhelming our staff with the amount of like 70,000 businesses in Iowa and the amount of people that we think are going to be excited about using the e-response system. We're sending it out in stages out to employer groups by industry and the types of claims they had, those that are most likely to use. But they gave us $100,000, which is great, but we're not going to need all 100,000 of that to do this marketing throughout the state with everybody. So we'll have about 40,000 of that left over, and we're going to dedicate that into the web section for UI on the employer that as well, because we use that as one of our primary marketing tools anyway. And the more up-to-date and informative we can make that for the employers to use this system, the more streamlined the process is going to be as well.
And the reason that's important right now is because every state agency are charged with redoing their website and to conform with the requirements that the governor has on a common website look, on a common way to get content. And so his administrative offices have been working really hard on what that website structure looks like, what the design looks like. We are one of the first, if not the first agency to kind of be the guinea pig on that. So we are far along the way with not only adhering to the governor's expectations, but to redesigning our website for usability, and we'll be able to help other agencies. But the good thing, in my perspective, is that I kind of enjoy being the first because we can select what we think are the best application methodologies to use in this technology. And since we are save a lot of money through technology, we're working really hard on this website development. So that's why the 40,000 is really helpful to put in our website design effort. Because that effort's going to take a couple of $100,000. We know where we're getting a lot of the money, but here is a source that we didn't know we would have to be able to help us with the web design, especially in UI, which is where the $40,000 will be spent.
This is another source of funding. Last year we received funding to talk about unemployment insurance integrity. You may have seen some billboards or radio messaging about fraud in the unemployment insurance system. We received another $100,000 to continue that messaging. And we're targeting claimants, awareness of what is fraud. And also, we want to target employers and provide them with some awareness on why it's important for them to provide us with separation information and why it's important to respond to us when we ask about, did somebody earn any wages with you? Because it may be fraud and they may owe us some money back. I'm really excited about this particular piece. We're in the I wish Gary Bateman could be here. Gary Bateman and I are working on rebuilding our unemployment insurance claim, unemployment insurance benefits claim. Recently, we added in a component where an individual is required to register for work. It works. It's a little bit cumbersome, and I don't like it as well, like Gary doesn't like it as well, so we want to make it a lot better. We want to add some features that not only require you to register for work, but at the end of the day, and at the end of the filing of the claim, I'm going to return back to you jobs that you might be eligible for and document that those jobs were offered up to you. The idea behind rebuilding this unemployment insurance claim not only is to make it a better, easier application to use, but it's to begin targeting get back to work. You filed your claim, you may be eligible for benefits, but hey, let's get you back to work.
So we're eliminating the steps where somebody has to then make a separate effort to go and to apply for work and to put down what their skills are, and so we integrated that with it. This really puts on the third piece, which is we'll actually be able to immediately start sending you job openings. So that person has immediate access to some of the jobs that they would be qualified for, that we're giving them referrals right away to start using their application.
See, that's cool.
It is.
Yeah.
That's funny. You do that weekly?
We're not doing it yet.
I mean, when you started, every time you file, what do you
Every
file?
time you file.
Every time you file your unemployment
Then
insurance
you'll
claim,
get those jobs
it'll
back?
offer up those jobs to you. More importantly, it's going to document that job A, B, and C was offered up to you at the time you filed your claim, so that if we want
What
to,
do
we
you
can follow up.
Explain that. What do you mean, Mike, offered up?
Mike Wilkinson files his unemployment insurance claim, and after I hit the submit button, I get jobs listed back to me that says, oh, hey, you've also registered for work. We know that you have this education, this work experience, and we have job A, B, and C in our system that you may qualify for.
So go apply for it.
Yes.
So, and if I don't?
Well, if
You
you
could
don't, you're risking your benefits because you have to be able and available to go to work.
That's pretty cool.
And we've never really had a way to document, that right away we're giving somebody an opportunity and information base that they have never gotten before.
That's what, I'm just thinking when we were up in Dyersville.
Yeah.
With all the manufacturers, this
Right.
is wonderful.
I
Right.
don't want to give away too much because I'd really like for Gary Bateman and Rich Thielen to be able to show you the new profile that we're building for unemployment insurance claimants and for customers of IWD. It does basically the same thing anytime they access our system. So
And
we'll just kind of hold that in abeyance for now.
Oh.
What's the timeline? What's your implementation timeline?
This one, I have to spend this, for this registration, I have to spend this money by the end of April. So it's got to come quickly. When I get this money, Gary Bateman just looks at me and shakes his head all the time because he's got so much work to do once we get the money.
He's our IT guy, so he'll have to do all the redesign fast and furious.
can I have one more question?
Of course,
The list of jobs that database is coming from,
iWorks.
okay, so you
That's
have to be
the- that-
registered in Iowa? Okay.
That's the design plan.
Okay.
Keep in mind, these are all in design phase and work
Now
plans.
you open the door for me. Is each one of these a special grant, or is this all lumped together?
Each one of these are special grants within the larger umbrella. So
What-
it's
So they
different
are
pockets.
lumped together, but they're, because of the timeline thing.
Yes,
Each
correct.
one of them's gonna have a different time.
Correct.
We're giving you 100,000 that says you gotta spend by April here,
Doing this,
for this.
yes.
And then we're gonna give you 79,000, whatever, to offset UI base grants.
For
Then you need
that.
to spend by then doing that.
Correct.
And it's all lumped together
Correct.
and
Right.
broke down into line
Right.
items.
And the whole special budget request has different timelines in it. They have what's called core money, which is what we're talking about right now. And these are all have to be spent by certain timelines in order to use our, what we call incentive money, and that, you'll see some of that here in a little bit.
Oh, maybe incentive.
Treasury offset program. Mentioned this before. There was a potential of receiving $400,000. They cut us $51. I don't know, but they did. We have $400,000 to do the programming and set it up of the Treasury offset program. Iowa is a little bit ahead of the curve for this. There are 19 states already involved in this, but what it is, it's a way for us to recover overpayments from federal income tax. The states that piloted this a couple of years ago were drawing in millions of dollars as a result of this. So we're very, very hopeful for this. There's 3 steps we've already been through. One of those big one is submitting what's called a safeguard procedures report to IRS to say we can safeguard our data adequately. Huge step. And now we're at the stage of needing to begin the programming. Pseudo-dumping state unemployment tax. This is a problem in our tax system. It has been for a few years. We currently have a system that we run quarterly to check for what's called pseudo-dumping, meaning an employer basically doesn't like their tax rate. They shut down that account to go open a new account at a lower rate. We have a system in place where we can cross-check against that each quarter. We want to build a new system that can do it in real time so that we can catch it when it happens. The reason for that is because we are beginning of the year, we're establishing an online method of employers registering immediately. So within 1 day, they can submit their application and get their account back in 1 day.
So this is when an employer has, what some of these employers do is they have a bad history, a bad experience rating, so they shut down that account and they open up their name differently and open up another account so they appear in the system as a new business, get a new business ranking. They have now gotten rid of their bad history with laying people off, and so their unemployment tax is lower if they're brand new without that history attached to them. So this, like Mike says, we do this quarterly, but this will be able to start doing it real time. So as soon as somebody tries to do this, we'll do the cross match and be able to catch that.
This is the piece that really surprised me out of the Department of Labor. In this particular grant, based on the size of the state, they would give us money specifically to work on eliminate backlogs from the past 3 or 4 years of high unemployment. We've got backlog. But what we want to do is we want to target this money. It's for staff. It's for state merit-covered staff. We're going to target investigations and collections. We've got backlogs in conducting fraud investigations in certain areas of the state, and we need to beef that up, and we need to beef up our collections process. So that's where we're going to target these resources. This is part of the incentive funds, and it's available to us, I believe, until September 30th of 2014. So we're going to be able to extend this out over a period of time and, again, save some UI-based grant money by utilizing this. Yes, sir?
Some of this we utilize for misclassification,
We could.
investigations.
We could. We're not going to. We're doing some different things with UI misclassification. They left it very broad and very open for us to target backlogs in your state. So, and we decided this was the biggest area of concern for us. This project, we have depended on, I'll just say, an independent vendor to process a lot of our tax records on a quarterly basis. Employers fill out their tax records, they mail them in, somebody has to actually key them and process the checks they send with it. For almost $400,000, we're going to set up new software and an additional machine to help us do it ourselves faster. So we're hoping to be able to eliminate
Third party.
the third party. And that's a cost of anywhere to $300,000 to $500,000 a year for that third party. Customer relationship management, and again, I wish Gary was here because he and his manager, Rich Thielman, were the brainchilds of this out of IT. They observed and noticed that We collect a lot of information about our employers in the employment service side, in unemployment insurance and labor market information, but the information never touches itself, never collects into one place. They said there's customer relationship management tools that we can put into place that will help manage and bring that together so we have a better understanding of how company A or B or C is interacting with our agency. And we can also make this available to the employer so that they can see, okay, yeah, I've had X number of claims filed against me, I've had X number of job listings put in there, I've had inquiries, or this is the information that I provided back for the LMI. That's what we're trying to do to put that together. The other piece of this that Gary and I have talked about for the customer relationship management, it's not part of this proposal, but where we want to take this is to build what I call flags into this customer relationship management that says, if I see X number of claims and I see how it might affect their unemployment insurance rate, it's going to immediately create a flag instead of waiting until that tax rate notice goes out in November. I can see, okay, in April or in July, your tax rate is bound to go up if you continue in this pattern. I can then, as customer service, go out and talk to that employer and say, let them know you've got a potential issue going on. Gary Bateman also wants to be able to set up a mirror database at Stark Armory, where we have our current backup. This is primarily for disaster recovery. We're basically going to set up a mirror image of what we have at our administrative office in case something happens as part of our disaster recovery. And that's going to, he anticipates it to cost $659,000, and that particular project was fully funded.
That's part of the safeguard measures that we talked about a little earlier in this grant. You have to be able to demonstrate these safeguards, and disaster recovery is one of those.
Just as very quickly, these are some of the projects that have been in process that are nearing completion. The State Information Data Exchange System, I talked about that in the advertising and promotion. That is something that we put into place last March that we plan to expand, and I've yet to find an employer that's not interested in being able to correspond with us electronically on this kind of thing. Integrated voice response, we're setting up a new IVR system for how people report their continued claims to us, how they refile their claims and so forth. It's a much better system. We do a much better job of communicating with our customers.
Well, and it makes it easier for them to get us information so they get to continue their getting their benefit check.
And we also can get a lot better information about customers that are calling in. They just demoed some of the supervisory tools with this new IVR. We can tell when any one particular person with a particular Social Security number called in and how many times they've called in. So if we see that Mike Wilkinson's Social Security number is showing up 5 times in one day, what's going on? Or if I see that there are a dozen phone numbers, there's a dozen Social Security numbers all coming from the same phone number, that's a flag. So there might be something going on there. So it's a really cool system, and I got to credit, again, Gary Bateman and his team for pulling this RFP together. The National Directory of New Hires, Gary Bateman and his team are still working on making some enhancements. The National Directory of New Hires, if you don't know, is where employers report when a person goes to work. We query that thing every week to find out if someone is working. If they are and they're drawing benefits at the same time, we call them in for potential fraud. We want to take that a step farther and try to prevent the fraud by connecting that hit off the National Directory of New Hires to the IVR, the Voice and Response System, so that when I actually claim my benefits, it says, hey, congratulations, you got a job with company ABC. Do you really want to claim benefits? Okay? Especially when they answered, no, I didn't work. So.
Yeah.
And back to your identifying worker misclassification, we have a special budget request from last year. We are working with contractor registration, U.S. Department of Labor Wage and Hour, the IRS, and the Iowa Department of Revenue to try to identify potential misclassification, employers who are deliberately or accidentally misclassifying workers. Using information from all those sources plus ours, we believe we can identify employers faster that may be misclassifying workers.
It's probably a really growing part of where we're finding fraud on the business side. So we're working that real hard.
The big issue that's on the horizon right now with the U.S. Department of Labor and with us is identity theft. I was talking with some of my counterparts from New York and New Jersey. They've implemented a system that uses a third-party administrator for identity theft. They have had much larger issues with identity theft. I won't go into their example. It was horrendous. It resulted in millions of dollars in theft based on false identities. But that's
So
on the rise.
What's the example of that? So,
Identity theft?
yeah, so I go in there and I use your social security number because I know you're getting benefits and I put my address in so I can get a check instead of you, or what?
In the example they had a team of, it was a father-son team that basically set up a bogus account, bogus employer account, and multiple employees, bogus employees, and they ran a scam against the state of New Jersey, which resulted in somewhere in the neighborhood of $3 million in fraud overpayments.
Well, what's the scam? What did they do? What's the identity theft? So they set
They
up
were
a bogus
bogus.
company.
If New Jersey was able to adequately identify that individual was matched to that social security number and to that employer, they never would have processed that.
Okay.
Now, we have some safeguards like that already here, and we're building that in, but identity theft is becoming a huge, is an emerging issue in the unemployment insurance system.
I guess, I'm the director, how did that get through all that system?
Yeah.
Because the system is self-regulating employer and claimant, and if they're in cahoots and you make up a claimant, we had this happen in Iowa about 25 years
So
ago.
the employer and one of the employees,
If you don't mind, Mike. The
Not at
employee, the employer is the claimant. It's all the same person.
They set up a bogus company. So the employer,
wouldn't they have had to pay into the account?
Not necessarily.
not necessarily.
Sure, yeah, they pay into the account, but they make more in benefits. That's the scam. They pay in the first few years at a new employer rate. You can collect
It's a low
benefits.
rate, you don't have any history.
Yeah, you make money that way. They did that in Iowa about 30 years ago. Guy from Florida.
That's funny, 'cause that's where the
You know,
employer was.
You'd think if
the
they put all that
New Jersey.
energy into just getting a job.
Sounds back down.
All of that energy that they do
Or the
to
third
figure that
generation.
out, just work.
Yeah, they were smart too.
Do you know where they say they get the most fraud with identity theft? Banks and doctor's offices. Yeah, that would blew my mind.
The two places that are supposed to be the most secure.
A lot of doctor's offices because of all the money that comes for payments on things, yeah.
We're very grateful.
So I create a company.
I'm gonna tell you.
I pay into this for like
Steve
a
and I
year,
already got
and
it.
then I laid myself off. and I-
Or your 5 kids that you claimed are
Oh,
people
God,
that work
don't-
for you.
I love children.
And
And then you wave them all off and then they all get to collect benefits.
I'm on the
There was a-
WC Field one, of children, go away, kids, bother me.
Is there a question on the phone?
So I just commented that I've been making notes on how to set up this bogus company.
You know, in Iowa, there's really only a couple of us in the agency that probably know how to do it really well. And one of them's at the table here, so. And I
Well-
won't tell you which one.
Yeah, well, if it's, the other thing you gotta watch out for, Greg, is the old boy was smart, and he got the benefits from Florida, and this went on for a couple years. But he got confused, and he listed the same phone number for the claimant and the employer. And that's how we caught him.
That's how it got
He
caught.
stumbled himself.
Well, yeah, that's usually what happens, but I'm just flabbergasted. I'm back to, You should just get a job.
That was their job, so.
Created their own.
Well, yeah, that's true.
Do you have any other questions for Mike?
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you, my
Yes,
pleasure.
thank you. We've been busy applying for grants.
Good to get it.
It's good to get them, but we have to have somebody on top of finding
You do,
them
finding
to
where the
apply for.
money is, right?
Finding where the money is. All right, we are at the end of our agenda. Is there anything that anyone around the table wants to offer that is a new surprise, a new initiative, anything to share? Okay, at the bottom of the agenda sheet, you will see the next meeting dates, February 22, which is a Friday, and Wednesday, May 22. So, barring any other emergency, we are adjourned until February 22. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you all.